Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. So a couple of days ago, Larry Kudlow was being interviewed, and he said in this interview that he doesn't expect China to be selling their U.S. Treasuries. And I got to thinking, why not? Why would you want to hold on to these U.S. Treasuries? He said that the U.S. Treasury is China's crown jewel of their foreign exchange holdings. And I thought, no, they're not. They're not even close to the crown jewel. Now, I guess if you compare them to the rest of the sovereign debts that are out there, then yeah, I guess, the U.S. Treasury isn't too bad because you can use it as a world, reserve currency. You can do global trade with it. But as far as an investment goes, they're terrible. I mean, you think about it like this. If there was a time when a 30-year bond would pay 6%, and it would pay even more at one time, but just think about 6%. And if you had $1 million in 30-year treasuries, then you would get paid like $60,000 a year. Not bad. I mean, that's it's not like awesome or anything like that, but it's pretty good. I mean, for an average guy. But now if you have $1 million in 30-year bonds, you get paid like $13,000. You would have to have like a job on top of your $1 million bond investment. It's a horrible, horrible asset to hold. Now, if you're speculating, that's a different story because you can buy U.S. Treasuries right now knowing that the Federal Reserve is going to be diving into U.S. Treasuries every time the Federal Reserve or every time the Treasury is issuing them out. The Federal Reserve is going to be buying those things and you'll have somebody to sell them to. So as the interest rates drop, you can speculate in the idea that you're going to sell them to the Federal Reserve for a profit. So like investing in U.S. Treasuries on the speculation that you're going to sell them to the Federal Reserve later on down the road is probably not too bad of an idea. I mean, it might actually, be a fairly decent return, but that's a speculation. It's not an investment. An investment is when you buy something with a guaranteed return, like buying a rental property or buying dividend-paying stocks or something like that. But the U.S. Treasuries don't pay any. I mean, they're hardly paying anything for an interest rate, and pretty soon, if you're going to be buying them, they're going to be negative anyway. Well, that's my speculation that they're going to be negative as far as the future goes. But then, you also have to think, like, why would a country like China want to hold on to U.S. Treasuries for any length of time? I mean, the Treasury is going deeper and deeper into debt, selling more and more of these U.S. Treasuries. I mean, I don't even know what the pace is now, but it's the fastest pace in history as far as I can tell. And the dollar amount is just like overwhelming. It's like even hard to wrap your head around. And the Federal Reserve is just loading up their balance sheet with these U.S. Treasuries. So how is it that the government pays for these Treasuries? Well, you can, 1, tax the people, 2, cut government, like that would ever happen, or 3, you can continue to inflate the dollar away with the Federal Reserve weakening the currency and buying up the treasuries, and that's what they're doing. Because right now, they're also talking about doing payroll tax cuts. And now you think about it, it's just like, well, taxes are what pay for the U.S. treasuries. So when they come due, the government has to tax the people in order to pay the treasuries. But that's not what they're doing. They're inflating the dollar away by selling them to the Federal Reserve. And so when you do a payroll tax cut, what is it you're trying to do? You're trying to put more money into the hands of the people. But it's not necessarily the people who are working that you need to put money into the hands of. It's the people who are not working. And right now, people are getting paid more on unemployment than to be employed. So none of it makes sense. And when he goes into saying that China wouldn't be wise to sell their U.S. treasuries under normal market conditions, we are not in normal market conditions. We are far from it. In fact, it's completely abnormal. I continue on to think about, what it is that the U.S. Treasury is going to do when all these taxes are being cut and corporate taxes are getting cut. At some point, you either have to raise the taxes on the people, which never feels good, or you'll have no other choice but to cut government, which also doesn't seem very likely, or you continue to inflate the dollar away, which does seem very likely to me. So the idea that China would want to hold on to the U.S. treasuries for any length of time just doesn't make any sense. Even though it is the world reserve currency and that you can do global trade with the U.S. treasuries, it doesn't make any sense to hold on to U.S. treasuries as any kind of investment kind of purpose. It's just completely illogical. And then what else was I thinking about on that? I guess that was it. Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know.